We're ready to get started. You guys all, are you ready, Rosie? Okay. Welcome everyone to Plan Tech on this fine October 18th day. We'll go ahead and start with item number 1, which is an action item for discussion and approval of last meeting's minutes. Before I call for a motion to approve them, is there any discussion that anyone would like to bring up? Okay, I am not seeing any. Is there someone that would like to make a motion to approve the August 3rd meeting minutes?
Matt Castle, I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Matt. Do we have a second? Also Matt, Matt Ship. For seconding. Okay, thank you. And now we're up for item number 2. Ben Worthrich is going to speak to us about the Transportation Improvement Program. He has a few items of business to discuss with us, and I'm still stalling because we're just waiting for him to walk up there. Okay, here we go.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're pending a couple of board modifications, but that information is not matured for this TAC committee at this point. So they potentially will be discussed, or if necessary, will be discussed in our January meeting. So what I'd like to do is leave the stand here for just a second and pass around a list of letters of intent. Okay, so what you have, and those online should receive, there's a electronic copy for you as well. These are the letters of intent we've received for October 2023, or this go around. The purpose for bringing this list before you is for you to review the list and to make sure that we have not missed something that you intended for us to review. So let me tell you how the table is sorted. They're sorted by county. Fortunately, here in the Salt Lake West Valley urban area, we're all in Salt Lake County. Project sponsor, project name, the location, the brief description, estimated project cost, funds requested, and the local match. And then the last column is the program. So if your project, if you submitted a project with potentially SDP or CMAQ or CRP funds, I've listed them separately so that we have a line item for each request on that project. So you may have a project that shows up 2 or 3 times. I also might point out that in UTA's behalf under the sponsor, sometimes the project sometimes the sponsor where the project is located is what's been highlighted rather than UTA. So if you see something that's not something you submitted, it probably came from UTA and it'll be in your area, but when the letters of intent or the concept reports are necessary, it'll be the proper individual that will be submitting the concept reports. So please review this list. And if there's something that should be on it that isn't, let me know, and then we can include that. What we will do from this point forward is we will at a very high level, do a staff eligibility review. And then we will make recommendations or request that the project sponsor prepare that concept report, which will be due on December 7th. So next week, we'll review this as a staff. We may make recommendations as to what program the project you may want to consider in addition to what you want to submitting, or request additional information. But nonetheless, we'll be requesting from you to prepare a project evaluation concept report. Those will be due back to us by the 7th of December. And then we will begin our evaluation process. And that takes us right in. If I can, Madam Chair, go right into the information item. Is that okay?
Good to go.
Thank you. So the schedule then for the 2025-2030 TIP is as follows. Once we begin the project evaluation process after December 7th, that'll take us all the way through the end of March. This year, we are going to try to do our field reviews a little earlier, perhaps in the early part of February, depending on how our winter weather is, so that we're able to get out. This process may be accelerated. We may be needing to be in a position earlier than normal to have our projects recommended and moving forward. So we're just going to be prepared there on the field review when we go out on site to meet with project sponsors. But we'll go through that project evaluation process. And then in February, we'll meet as a body here. And that's where we have like our field review slideshow. It's more of a where you're sitting where we are or where you are, and you're just watching as we illustrate each project with a picture and some information so that you become familiar with all the projects that are competing for the funds. Then we'll be back in March. This body will make a recommendation to TransCom as to what projects to move forward. TransCom will review that and make recommendations to the regional council to include draft projects into the draft 25-30 TIP. And we'll go to that point because we'll be talking the schedule multiple times, but that's where we are. Are there any questions as far as schedule for the next TIP process? Fantastic. Maybe, well, never mind. Madam Chair, I was going to ask to jump and do number 7 while I'm up here too, but we'll wait.
Right.
This morning I mixed them all up together and we had them all at once and no one. So thank you. That's all I have.
Did you have an action item to modify the 24-29 TIP just for any modifications or?
No, those have not matured, so
Okay,
they're not
that's what I
ready.
thought. Okay. That's what I thought. Thank you. We will move on to item number 3. We have Michael Goldman here from UTA to give us an annual report on the travel demand model. Is Michael here?
Sorry, I was muted. I'm here.
Okay, thanks, Michael.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for letting me come and share again this year. I'm with UTA's rideshare department, and I have a slide that I bring with me every time, basically explaining what we do. There's a lot of wording to it, but basically what I'm focusing on today is Vanpool because that's what we get our funding for from WFRC. And I've added a slide just to show you a lot of our core principles that we have. We try to stay within this mindset as we make decisions. So we make decisions, we want to make sure that we're reducing single occupancy vehicles, that we're increasing ridership, and that we're being fiscally responsible with the money that we've been entrusted with. So just to show, we do get admin expenses. And so the qualifying expenses for Salt Lake is just over $422,000. The funds that we receive, CMAQ funds through you, is just over $263,000. With the difference of $158,000 that we're covering through the program. And then my favorite part, the benefits. The vehicle miles traveled reduced for Salt Lake County is just over 6 million miles reduced, which is pretty good. And then that equates to about just over 10,000 tons of emissions reduced. And I think from last year, we were at about 5.3 million miles reduced. And so we've gone up quite a bit. We've seen a lot of people coming to the program. We're actually getting to the point where we actually don't have vans available. So that's exciting for us to see people getting in there, getting in vans and getting out of their cars. So are there any questions for me?
I'm not seeing any, Michael.
All right, well, that was easy. I appreciate that. That makes me feel happy.
Thank you. That brings us to item number 4. We have Brad Cameron here substituting for Tyler Lang. Brad's here to give us the ITS annual report from UDOT.
Tyler's away celebrating his son's wedding today, so he asked me to step in for him. All right. Signals and ITS device growth. So in the last 5 years, if you look at these numbers, you can see that we've had a steady incline in devices installed in the field. There's a lot of interest in ITS these days, so we're grateful for that, and people are willing to spend their money to do this kind of work. Along with this type of growth, though, we have to, it spreads our employees pretty thin, so we have those challenges as we expand our system. Anyway, here in Salt Lake area, you can see as well that we average about 3.6% growth a year. And these, so when we're talking about these devices, we're specifically looking at the larger type devices, the big ticket items like the Type 1 Daktronics VMS signs that are on the freeway, or the cameras, the traffic censoring systems. What these numbers don't include is like our static signs that have some sort of electrical component, flashing, driver feedback type signs. Also the wrong way driving systems aren't included in this as well, that we're ramping up as a department in installing variable speed limit systems as well. But and then also these numbers aren't necessarily devices that are actually within the MPO boundaries. We've included devices that benefit the driving traveler entering the MPO area. It's not a lot, but it is included in this number. So, UDOT ITS projects. So we've had an ongoing, you're probably familiar with this one. I imagine it's been presented in the past. We've got an ongoing statewide effort to upgrade all of our camera systems statewide. Our camera system is approximately, if not exactly, 1,730 cameras statewide. So it's a big effort. You can see here in this slide the difference in clarity from the analog image versus the digital image. UDOT hung on as long as they could doing analog technology till the manufacturer notified us they were no longer supporting it, which is industry-wide. So kind of forced our hand to do this, and it's been a daunting task. I mean, we're into this like 5 years, but I am happy to say that we're about 85% complete on our upgrades for our cameras, and that's statewide. Now, when we talk about 1,700 plus cameras, that includes the cameras that are not owned by UDOT directly. So the municipalities that install these cameras, they are also connected to the UDOT network, and it's basically one system. However, the challenge is that the funding that UDOT has can't necessarily go towards upgrading municipalities' cameras. So it's kind of on the municipality side to do that. And we're working with them and trying to figure out the best solution to make that happen. Now here in Region 2, which is my assigned area, I believe that number is about 30, you know, for the whole valley. So it's not a huge number, but it is a challenge that we're faced with. Other ongoing, sorry about that. Other ongoing UDOT projects. So our variable message signs that you see out on the interstates, they're a monochrome, for the most part, a monochrome style, meaning the amber display. What we've done in the last probably 3 years now is we started an effort to upgrade these signs to a full color, full matrix. So you can see the difference here in these pictures that the full matrix, full color on the bottom there kind of looks like it's photoshopped, but it's not. The UDOT updated their policy to include the use of full color. However, and we'll talk about this in a minute. However, we're waiting on the central software at the Traffic Operations Center to start implementing this feature. So we have, as a ITS division, last year, we upgraded 7 of these signs here in the valley. And we just hired Cache Valley Electric to upgrade an additional 8. So hopefully in the next 3 months, most of the signs here in the Salt Lake Valley will be upgraded to full color. Ben, you have a question?
Thanks, Brad. Just to be online. So when you change over from the signs, from the monochrome to the color, is it the same body or do you have to, is it a total, it's not just the screen change, it's a total sign difference?
That's a great question. It's a complete removal and installation of a new unit. So the newer signs, they're lighter. They draw a little less power. I mean, there's some, you know, cool features with the new technology, but it's a complete removal of the old and a reinstallation of the new.
Does that change anything to the structure that's holding the signs, or is that, am I getting too deep? Sorry, Brad.
No, you're great. I'm going to go with what our UDOT Structures Division said is no. They're having, it's debatable. We met with them recently and we got their blessing to do this additional 8. But it sounds like we're going to reevaluate this because this is something we believe we're going to continue to do, is upgrade these. You know, I mean, I think it's logical to say once everybody sees these full color signs, everybody's going to want it, you know? So they're pretty impressive. Okay, moving on. So also we are, you know, constantly adding new signals and upgrading signals throughout UDOT. I believe the number that I was told or overheard here in Salt Lake County, we're averaging about 5 new signals a year. So it's an ongoing effort. Our primary concern from our end is making sure that there's a legitimate communication connection to these signals. Our primary goal is to try and get fiber to them. And then if we can't do that, we have a couple other options. There's a wireless radio feature that's works pretty well and is stable. And if that isn't available to us, then we move on with our last choice, which would be a dial-up modem type CDMA feature, communicate it through cell phone. But it is very important that these signals that get installed wherever they're at are connected to the system. So here's the slide I was talking about previously. So UDOT currently is in the process of upgrading the central software at the Traffic Operations Center. The software that we currently are using, I guess, it's had a lot of modifications to it over the years, but we acquired in 1998 when the Traffic Operations Center was open. So it's pretty old. So this upgrade has been going on for a couple years now, and we're actively in the process of switching over. I talked to the operations engineer that runs the operations room. Chris Savrakis said, you know, they hope to have this central software fired up by the end of this year. Along with that is once that's established and running, then there's the process of adding all of the modules that will ultimately manage the vast system and variety of products we have in the field to do traffic management. So yes, it'll be ready hopefully by the end of the year is the goal, but then there'll be ongoing effort to build onto this thing. This picture here in the slide is of the video wall that was recently upgraded probably within the last year and a half. It is dramatically different than what we had before, and it's pretty cool. So if you ever get a chance to get in there and see this thing, I recommend you try to do that. Okay, so upcoming UDOT projects with ITS. So we've got the Bangerter South interchanges. I think everybody's familiar with what's going on there. In all these interchanges, we currently have ITS. So basically what we'll be doing is rebuilding it to accommodate the modifications to each interchange. Another upcoming project, the Bangerter 4100 South to California Avenue preferred alternative. Here we go. Hopefully it works this time.
Hello, I'm Alex, the UDOT project manager for the Bangerter Highway Environmental Study. Last time you heard from me, we were just kicking off a study to identify a new freeway-style design, one without stoplights, for Bangerter Highway between 4100 South and West Valley City and California Avenue in Salt Lake City. This is the last remaining section of Bangerter to be studied for the conversion to freeway-style interchanges, with construction scheduled to begin in 2028. Because traffic on Bangerter is expected to double by 2050, our project will improve congestion, safety, and quality of life by upgrading the highway now, all while minimizing impacts to the environment around it. To determine what the new highway design could look like, we compiled traffic and engineering data, analyzed potential environmental impacts, and gathered community feedback. Based on this information, the study team put together 4 design concepts. After close review, we've determined that the concept that meets our traffic goals, is economical to construct, and has the least impact to the community is what we're calling option B, interchanges. This design includes constructing on and off ramps at 4100 South, 3500 South, 2700 South, also known as Parkway Boulevard, SR201, 1820 South, and California Avenue. Due to the spacing required between freeway interchanges, this design also means that access on and off Bangerter from 3100 South and 2400 South would no longer be available. However, traffic could still travel east and west across these 2 cross streets without a traffic signal. It was important that we understood what removing access to and from Bangerter at those cross streets would mean for traffic, and we found that less than 1 minute of additional travel time would be added by using the interchanges north or south of these 2 areas instead. Next, feedback from the public and city officials told us that the community prefers Bangerter to go under the cross streets where possible. While we're not able to do this for most of this segment because of high groundwater levels, our study showed that we have a unique opportunity to have Bangerter go under 4100 South. We'll be able to lower Bangerter slightly and raise 4100 South, limiting the visual barrier for the community. Finally, from the beginning, we set out to improve transportation not only for drivers, but also people who walk, bike, and roll in West Valley and Salt Lake City. As part of option B, a new shared use path will run along Bangerter. This path will connect to existing pedestrian infrastructure on the north and south ends of the project, improving connectivity and safety for people traveling without a car.
So with that, is there any questions? Hopefully I can answer. Yes, sir.
I got so excited when I saw the alternate routes. So bike lanes from 4100 South to California Avenue, is that what I saw on there?
Yes.
That's exciting. Thank you for doing that.
Any other questions?
I don't have a question, just a comment. To lighten your 1700 traffic signal workload a bit, I'd just like to say that New York City has 13.5 traffic signals.
Oh, I'm sorry, my
13,500.
1700 was CCTV cameras. Sorry if I misspoke.
Oh, you're good.
Okay. We good?
Yes,
Thank you, guys.
13,500. Yeah. Thank you, Brad. Item number 5 will be presented by Stan Penfold, and his topic of presentation is the annual report on green bikes.
Hi, I'm gonna be filling in for Stan today. My name's Cameron Ariano. I'm the operations director for Green Bike. I've been with Green Bike for over 10 years now, since inception, and back in April 2013 is when we opened. So a little history about Green Bike. We opened 2013 April. So this is our 11th operating season. And what's cool is we're one of the oldest 501c3 nonprofit bike shares in the nation right now. Unfortunately, during COVID, a lot of them shut down. So we're one of the last remaining nonprofits. Most of them got either absorbed by their local transit agency or the city, or a private entity came out and made it for a for-profit business. So we're one of the last remaining nonprofit bike shares that haven't been absorbed by our transit agency. Some cool things that we did in 2023, we did a really big expansion. We added one station up in Ogden, we added e-bikes up in Ogden, and down here in Salt Lake City, we just completed our expansion. We added 8 new stations and 100 e-bikes down here in Salt Lake City. Really excited. And we actually added 4 new stations on the west side, and then we added one up in Sugar House as well. So our area is growing quite a bit. It's pretty exciting. Some of the other new cool things we have in 2023 is we have a new product. If you look at the new stations that we just installed, they're all these cool new black stations. They're actually these 3.0 stations. And what makes them unique is they don't have a solar battery, or they're not hardwired into the ground. They each have an internal battery into the dock. And what's so unique about this and why we like it so much, it gives us a lot more flexibility in how we can place the station. So you'll see 7 of them are down here, and one of them is up in Ogden. So check those out if you guys haven't seen those. Some of the other cool new things we did this year, we did a single trip pass. We offered a single trip pass back in June. We also offered another new membership option, a monthly membership option. So as of right now, we have a single trip option, a day pass option, a monthly option, a 4-day option, and an annual membership. And that gives our riders a lot more choices on whatever membership's going to suit them best. And what's really neat is since we've introduced the single trip option, it's already taken 18% of our trips, and then the monthly's taken 8% of our trips. So we've seen quite a big increase actually in trips this year. So a little bit, we're trending up right now. We started the year a little slow beginning of the year, but since May, we are on track to beat our 2022 numbers by quite a bit. So that's really neat. Another cool thing are e-bikes. So when we did our expansions down here, we added 8 new stations in Salt Lake City. We actually added 100 new e-bikes down here as well. And the e-bikes get about 10 more trips, so every one trip that the Classic takes, the e-bike gets 10 trips. So they are in high demand. We love them. They're great for the system. The riders love them. So we're gonna keep trending towards green bikes as we expand our system. And so, yeah. And is there any questions? Anybody have any questions or anything about green bike? Yeah.
How do they relate to the use of scooters?
We are not part of scooters. We're our own entity. So we don't work too close. We're a dock-based bike share system, and they're a dockless system. So, you know, unfortunately, when they were introduced, we noticed it in our trip trends back in 2019 or 2018. But you know, we try to work with them. We don't have too much overlap. They're one of their main riders. They really go for people just doing like who wants to grab a quick drink, who wants to go out and just like go to a venue, something like that. Where we specialize as commuters. So ours is all about taking public transportation into the city, and then we put our stations next to bus stops and track stops, front runner, so they can take the bike from there and then ride it into the city. And so it's the first mile, last mile that's where we fill in, but we really focus on commuters. So the people who are coming in to the city every day. That's why we have these annual memberships where they retail for $75. And so that's really the most economical way to do that, as opposed to like a scooter. But yeah, we don't, we try to be, good. We're not partners, but we try to be friendly business associates. We've had some overlap with them putting their scooters next to our stations and stuff like that. So we've had to ask them a couple times, like, hey, please don't block our bikes with the scooters. But it hasn't been too contentious. It's been, we get along pretty well.
And then just to follow up about how do you, what is your long-term strategy for where you're locating new service?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So right now, so we've kind of hit our density point in Salt Lake City. So what we're trying to do now is move out of Salt Lake City and even move into new cities. So for instance, Ogden, we just opened up that system last year. There's been some interest in other communities around Salt Lake, such as Daybreak. So really, that's probably what we're gonna move to, is kind of creating these new pockets of bike share in the community.
I think with the other ones around the scooters and bikes and such, they're all for profit. If I'm not mistaken, you're the only nonprofit shared.
Yeah, for the scooters, they're all for-profit companies. They're owned by Lyft or Uber. And so, we're the only nonprofit.
I just wanted to say too, there are at least 3 people here who rode an e-bike or a green bike to this meeting. So
awesome.
good
We
job.
actually
Thank you.
saw somebody riding a green bike when we were coming in. We saw somebody riding a green bike. Yeah, WFRC, you guys have a lot of stations around here, which is really, really cool. So I'm happy to hear that you guys are utilizing those green bikes.
Are your green bikes the same rate as the regular, your e-bikes the same rate as regular bikes?
Yeah. So they are in Salt Lake City. It's not always like that across the nation. There are options to increase pricing with those, but for us, we're really all about just making it really easy, accessible, and getting people on the bikes for trips. So we don't have a price increase for e-bikes. So the same price as the classics.
And do they charge when they're in the docking stations?
No, unfortunately, there's not a our bike provider. It's actually Trek. It's B-Cycle, who's owned by Trek. They're looking into providing it, but if you're going to charge the bikes at a station, there's a lot of you have to basically hardwire all the stations and then upgrade all the docks and everything. So they are working on it, but as of now, no. How it works is there's these these external batteries that we charge back at our shop. And so we have guys going out every day swapping the batteries. There's little trackers on there, so it will ping us when it gets low. So we know, like, hey, we got to go. So we'll send out and swap 20 battery bikes a day, 20 to 30 batteries a day.
You mentioned you're getting outside of Salt Lake City. You also mentioned South Jordan. Do you have anything in West Valley and others on the west side that we could kind of go in? Because I think we just do it in West Jordan. It'd be nice to have some connectivity that we can work our way in towards Salt Lake City, like West Valley on the way on the Jordan River Trail or some things like that.
So as of now, no, we don't have any in West Valley. We are starting to put them along the Jordan River Trail. It would be nice. It's a lot. We would like to put the stations, but as we move farther out, our operations costs go up. So what we try to do is work with whatever the local city is and to help with operations. So whether that is like help finding a shop, so that's a tough, finding shop location. So Ogden, we have our own shop because we can't have everybody starting in Salt Lake because we have vans and then like driving out there. So what we look for is, we look for like help with like a shop or funding for operations, help like with station locations, stuff like that.
Well, are you in South Jordan then? You mentioned Daybreak.
No, we're not actually in Daybreak yet. They've just expressed a lot of interest. So we're exploring that option right now.
All right. We're next door neighbors. Would be good to work with us on that too.
Yeah, well, that's, we'd like to talk to you as well. If you're mayor of South Jordan, we'd like to, it would be nice because that's the idea. It's hard to put little outlier stations. You really want a nice corridor of stations so you can get, from point A to point B, because the trips are only an hour. They're not really meant for super long trips, but if you create a corridor of stations, you can check in your bike, and then when you check it back out, your trip resets. So you could make that trip all the way down. And it really helps with e-bikes now as well. We have e-bikes you can go 2 to 3 times the distance in the same amount of time you can on a classic. Mhm. Any other questions? All right. Thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you, Stan. That concludes our group of annual reports. Next item is the Bluffdale City presentation. And we have Addison Mitten down to give that. Is Addison still here? Is there anyone else that is subbing for Addison on the presentation? Addison, we see you online. We didn't hunt that hard, but we do see you. Are you on mute? Okay, we'll come back to,
Brittany, she just put in on the chat that her mic isn't working and she's gonna try to call in.
okay?
While we're waiting for that, I want to announce that my daughter is in labor right now to have her second child. So I may have a new grandchild before I get home today. That'll be number 11 for me.
Congratulations. Woohoo.
Should we go on? Okay, we'll come back to you, Addison. Keep trying what you're doing. We'll move on to item number 7, which is what Ben alluded to earlier, to discuss the proposed 2024 tax schedule.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Addison, when you're ready, just join right in. I'll sit down. So coming around before you right here, and as well as there's an electronic copy, is our schedule for the 2024 TAC meetings. Starting
WFRC
on the-
meeting. These are all the other people online.
Say that again, Ryan. Oh, all right. I'm an ex. No, here we are. So January 17th is our first meeting. That'll be a hybrid meeting, and we'll discuss in a minute on location and such. But then February 28th will also be a hybrid meeting. This is a meeting we referenced earlier where we will have a roadshow of all the projects, giving the TAC members opportunities to see and review the projects that are being evaluated. Then in March, we want to strongly encourage that it's an in-person participation meeting. That's when we come in here. This body makes those recommendations to TransCom as to what projects move forward. And so we want you, we feel that we get a little better interaction and some good discussion on projects when we're all in here together. So we'd encourage that March meeting be an in-person meeting. April, we have no meeting. Then in May, we have a hybrid meeting, and that will be the meeting where the TAC reviews the draft tip to TransCom and makes recommendations for TransCom to send it out for public review and comment. June and July, there is no meetings for this body. In August, we come back to this body. It'll be a hybrid meeting where we discuss any public comments that we received during the review and comment period. September, no meeting. And then in October, we have our meetings just like today with the year-end reports. Now the more important part is to turn the page over, and that's when we talk who has the refreshment schedule. And something that we've also identified too is we're identifying the chair. We appreciate Brittany and all she's done an amazing job this year. We want the TAC members to have that feeling or that ability to contact the chair if they've got a question, or a member of the staff that can come. So we put the staff numbers there at the bottom of the page, but you'll see that Cottonwood Heights, Matt, glad you're here. Cottonwood Heights has the refreshments there in January. Wait till we give you the menu. Then we have Draper, and then in March, WFRC will provide the treats, and because we be reviewing all of the new projects or we'll be having a discussion on the projects, we didn't want to take away from a local jurisdiction for a project report. So WFRC will provide the refreshments there in March. We also want you to be aware of that we'll invite the county to do the presentation on the third quarter and quarter preservation programming at that time as well. Then in May, you can see is Harriman and Holiday in August and Midvale in October. So Keith, you have plenty of time to be cooking up something nice. Anyway, the reason for this is we want your input. If there's other things that you think or feel would be appropriate or interesting for the representatives of this TAC committee, to please bring it to our attention. We'll work with the chair. We'll bring it on to the agenda. And we just want you to know how much we appreciate the work that you do and the important role that this body plays in the transportation improvement program process. So any questions on the schedule? Any online? Yes, thank you. All those Salt Lake meetings will be at 2 o'clock. Does that time work for everybody? Is that all right? The other thing there that I totally said, thank you there for bringing that up, meeting location. We need a place where we can do a good hybrid meeting. Is this setting here sufficient? Is it good enough, or would you like it changed? What's your recommendations? And we'll coordinate also with the chair. Well, okay, thank you, Mayor. We'll plan on no meeting, but we'll all go for refreshments, and that's, no, and Mayor, thank you for, you come often. We appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, if there's no other information, Madam Chair, that's all I got.
Okay. Has Addison been able to call in yet?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. I'd much prefer that I joining this meeting in person, but I had a conflict with a conference today, so here we are. And let me make sure I can hear you actually. Can somebody say something?
Can you hear us?
Okay, yep, perfect. Had a little echo, so I had to cancel out one or the other. Okay, let me share my screen here. Okay, everybody seeing that presentation?
We do see it.
Perfect. So this is a project that had a lot of meaning to Bluffdale. And I'll just start with a disclaimer. Unfortunately, Michael Fazio was also not able to join today. He was actually the one who saw this project all the way from its conception to completion. And I was the lucky person who was hired on at the city right as the bridge was being finished. And so I got to see the tail end of it. So unfortunately, I won't have answers to detailed questions about the bridge project itself, but I can give you a little bit of information based on a presentation that Michael had put together in the past for this. So our Bluffdale's logo is or their slogan is Life Connected. And so this bridge sort of helps fulfill that motto a little bit, because previously we weren't terribly well connected as far as east to west goes. And I'll get more into that here. But so we we only had one east-west connection within Bluffdale city limits. You can see 146 South is labeled on the map there.
Hey, Addison, your slides aren't changing and we're not in presentation form.
Oh, let me try something different here. Can you see the next slide now?
Well, we can, the Genesis, but it's still in your setup. It's not in, can you
Yeah.
scroll
Yeah,
over 3 icons? Maybe go, yeah, there. Good job. You're on.
How about this one? There we go. Okay, now I see it changing. So, yeah, as I mentioned, 146 South was really our only east-west connection for a long time. And that is not sufficient to understate it. We have a good proportion of our population coming into the city on the east side of the Union Pacific Railroad tracks that you see in the center of the picture there. And they needed a crossing to be able to get over to Redwood Road, which a lot of commuters take. And that 146 South underpass, I'm sure many of you have driven through this, it's just a single lane wide underpass. And so what we actually had to do a few years ago was install a traffic signal to allow people to go through one at a time. Just not at all the ideal type of east-west connection to feed an estimated 10,000 vehicles per day was our most recent estimate that we came up with. So there needed to be a solution to that. So 2004, we commissioned TAC to do a corridor study to get the traffic from east side to west in a new alignment. And so that alignment became what is now Porter Rockwell Boulevard. Many of you are familiar with the segment west of Redwood that had been built for quite some time to Mountain View Corridor. This is completing the east segment of that goes from Redwood to 146 South, which eventually goes to I-15. So they came up with this alignment that's shown here in blue on this image, connects Redwood Road to 146 South. And so that was what they came up with. Now, just to give you a little bit of a timeline, so Michael Fazio, our city engineer, he came to work at Bluffdale in 2011, and this was his first big assignment, was build this road. So he presented the alignment. They divided it into 5 phases. They purchased the right-of-way that same year and built even one of the portions. Got funding for others. Come 2015, we complete the environmental document, and we're on to construction of segment 5 by 2018. Funding, we got thankfully quite a bit of funding. That's sort of a huge project budget for little Bluffdale to swallow of 72 million. And so we were able to thankfully secure some funding, the majority of it being from the state, to be able to construct this bridge and segments of the road also. In 2019, we awarded Wadsworth to construct the bridge as a design build. And then in August of just this last year, it was completed. So some of the challenges that we ran into, this image kind of gives you an idea of some of them, but we've got the Jordan River, 2 active railroad tracks, that being the UTA and Union Pacific, 3 irrigation canals. One of them's just off the screen here, but nevertheless, we had to deal with it because we cross over it with the road. The Jordan River Parkway Trail that we wanted to keep continuous through this area, and which ended up being passed under the bridge. And we've got a large diameter aqueduct, the Rocky Mountain Power Corridor. We had a 700-foot long area to span. It looks much shorter based on the constructed bridge, just because of the length of the actual suspended bridge area. But that is the ultimate gap that we began with. And we had about 80 feet of height that we were working with. So those ended up being some pretty tall columns. So in preliminary, we prepared some typical cross sections. It came up to a 5-lane with a center 2-way turn lane. We walked the area and studied some possible locations for the crossing and ultimately landed on this one being the best. The city has their own drone that we're able to get a LiDAR survey from, and so we took advantage of that to get a good 3D model of the whole project. And we also had a height requirement to meet from the railroad, from the bottom of the bridge to the top of rail. So here's some of the cross sections what we're looking at. I know these are not legible by any means, but you kind of get the concept. 5 lanes. This is what the built road ended up looking like. It's got a little bit of width to use for future widening. Yeah, I'm not sure what this slide was showing, but just, I guess, the overall concept of it. Here's the plan view, a little bit more zoomed in of the whole roadway from 146 to Redwood. Here's the profile. We end up having to go down in a dip to get across the railroad tracks and the canals and all those other obstacles that we mentioned earlier. Just because kind of zoomed up on the bridge section. Final concept for the bridge structure. Again, you can see all those conflicts in the profile view down below that we had to cross over. But luckily it all came together pretty well. Again, these are all plan sheets. Since they're not terribly legible, I'm going to skip over a lot of them here. I think the pictures kind of do a better job of showing what's going on. This is a cross section just of the bridge. Very similar. Got a divided median in the center. Our access for the project had to come from the south following the railroad tracks for construction, so that they could stage the cranes and different things in the bottom to lift up the different pieces of the bridge. Here's a picture, a couple pictures just showing some of the sizes of the girders that they were dealing with. Getting that bridge put together piece by piece. You can tell they're only about 1/5 of the way there in the top left image. So it required a lot of steel for sure to span that gap. Here's kind of a look, looking down them. A lot of cranes to get this project done. So here's January of last year, coming along pretty well. That was about the same time I got hired on at the city. So I got to see the fun stuff on it. We took advantage of precast concrete deck panels on this project to help accelerate the construction. That eliminates a lot of formwork, obviously, and we also took advantage of using a mechanically stabilized soil wall. And we're able to reduce the span by using taller abutments on each side of the bridge. As far as the finished deck, that's cast in place concrete with steel epoxy bars. Nothing too fancy there. Here's progress on the bridge come June. Everything's looking pretty good. Here's the trail as it crosses under the bridge, connecting the Jordan River Parkway Trail. And then here's the completed product on our grand opening of the bridge on August 16th of 2022. You've got a fun little image of the UTA front runner running underneath. Just really turned out to be a great project. And the funding certainly made it possible. Wouldn't have happened without even a fraction of that cost being funded. So really pleased with the way the bridge turned out. It's getting heavily used. It's made its way onto Google Maps. It took a couple months after it was built, but now it's getting more and more heavily used, and we're seeing new commercial developments come along it. And so it's been a real success for Bluffdale. It's taken a good amount of pressure off of 146 South until we're able to address that crossing a little bit better. But real fun project. Any questions?
I have a question. That old route that went under the train, is that still accessible or is that gone?
Yes, that's Union Pacific. And
No,
that
I
is
mean
still very,
I meant the road that went under those tracks. Is that road still there?
oh, yes, it is. Yep, that's a maintenance access road.
Thank you. Can I still go on it then if it's maintenance?
Possibly. I don't know if there's a locked gate somewhere, but
Thank you.
Do we have any questions online? I am not seeing any. Thank you. I appreciate your presentation, Addison.
sure thing.
We will move on to item number 8, voting for a vice chair. So we're shifting roles where Ben White from Taylorsville City will move up into the position of chair, which leaves the vice chair position vacant. Are there any volunteers or voluntold for the position? Perfect. Thank you, Matt. Are there any contenders?
Brittany, for those online, can you explain what happened? They didn't hear. Please remember to use the microphone when you're speaking.
Yes, so we are on item number 8. We are shifting the role from the current vice chair, who is Ben White. He will be taking over the chair position, which is what I am doing currently. And he's vacating the vice chair position. And so we are looking for a representative to fill the position of vice chair. We have Matt Ship from Cottonwood Heights, who has volunteered himself. And I am wondering if there was anyone else who would also like to be in that position at all. Okay, I am not seeing any. Since Matt volunteered himself, I'm not going to ask him if he thinks that's okay. We will have a vote. Everyone who is in favor of Matt taking over the vice chair position, please say aye. Aye. And is there anyone opposed? Okay. Thank you. And congratulations. We are on to number 9, other items of business. We had Kip that was going to give us an update on the safety action plan, and he is online. So I will turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Brittany. Yes, I just wanted to give you all a quick update of our comprehensive safety action plan. Many of you are aware that this plan unlocks the funds to the Safe Streets for All program that was recently introduced. We've been the study encompasses the entire Wasatch Front planning area, the Brigham City area, Weber, Davis, Salt Lake counties, and Tooele and Morgan counties. We've divided that 6-county area into 11 what we're calling geographic focus areas. So we've met with 8 of those areas already, a couple in the Salt Lake area. We were in Matt and Brittany's area just yesterday. Some of you others who we've been by and appreciate your participation. So right now we're reviewing the trends from the crash data. Kimley Horn Associates is leading the study. When we complete this first round of focus area meetings, we'll then begin investigating strategies to address the safety needs. And then there will be another round of focus area meetings in February. So appreciate your participation. If you want to learn more about the project website is wfrcsafetyplan.org. Any questions about our safety plan? Oh, and I did want to add that this program is it's a kind of a different program from federal highways. It's not one that they're administering through the MPOs. We got involved because the cities asked someone to lead the required regional study. But once the study is in place, the local communities, cities and counties will apply directly to federal highways for these safety improvement funds. It's not part of the programs administered by WFRC.
This is Mayor Burton. Are you including residential streets on that or just arterial streets, or what is included?
Okay, a good question. So the program is designed for local communities and the roads owned and operated by the cities. So that's federal aid roads and local roads. So yes, your residential streets would be eligible, but the data we're finding is that's not necessarily where the safety needs are, although in your community you may have some specific needs that you want to address. By the same token, if the state road in your community is your primary safety concern, you can apply for these funds, the city can, with the cooperation of UDOT, but UDOT actually can't apply for these funds. But you can partner with them if that's your priority. Does that help?
That helps a lot. I agree that's not where our primary problems are on residential streets, but that's where the residents think their primary problems are. And so could we involve a communication campaign that could be included in this funding for those on the residential streets, but then do the traffic calming on or safety features on the other roads?
Yeah, you can fund education programs. That's possible with using these funds. The benefits might be shorter lived than asphalt and concrete kinds of solutions. But the analysis is fairly comprehensive, so it's picking up a lot of things, possibly like widespread use of the rapid flash beacons at pedestrian crossings. That sort of thing are being picked up in the analysis. So there's quite a bit of flexibility with what strategies you want to pursue.
Thank you. I'll have Nestor get in contact with you on that.
Thank you.
Kip, if I may, this is Alma. I'll just point out that if anyone, as they're looking at their safety needs with the planning, the Safe Streets for All planning side of things, if you have anything that would relate to UTA on that, you can get a hold of Trevin Blaisdell, who's working with the small area groups, or Sheldon Shaw, who's on the steering committee for that.
Thanks, Brittany.
Okay. Thank you, Kip. We have one other business item to talk about, which is the Wasatch Choice workshops. I have a list of the meetings that will be happening and the locations, so I will go through those now. The first one will be held on November 1st. That's for the Southern Davis County Workshop. Again, that's November 1st at the Davis County Administration Building. And that is in Farmington. And then the next workshop for the Southern Salt Lake County area will be held on November 6th. And that will be held in Harriman City, in Harriman at City Hall off Main Street. The workshop for Southern Weber and Northern Davis counties is on November 8th, and that will be held at the Clearfield Arts Center in Clearfield. And then the Box Elder in Northern Weber County area will be held on November 13th. That is at Far West Senior Center in Far West. And then the last one for Northern Salt Lake County will be on November 20th. And that is being held at Murray City Hall in their council chambers. If you need any of those addresses, you can reach out to me or Ben has a list of them as well. Is there anything else that anyone would like to bring up and discuss that isn't on the agenda?
Chair Ward, if I made one more item.
Yes.
On the concept reports, there's a section that says how you've coordinated with UTA. I'd like to introduce somebody who you could coordinate with. Ian Vandermerve is with our customer. Help me out. Go ahead.
Yeah, customer experience and the bus stop improvement team. So we wanted to start coming to these meetings to sort of be a point of contact for when a roadway project, for instance, in a sector involves UTA bus stops. We are a good point of contact at UTA. So myself, Ian Vandermerve, and also Preston Larson, who's online. And we've also been working with cities and UDOT to improve our stops and sort of get them up to ADA compliance and that sort of thing at the same time that agencies or cities are improving roadways. And so that's also something we'd like to try and take advantage of more sort of moving forward. So happy to be here and happy to make y'all's acquaintance. So hopefully we can, get some ADA pads poured.
Perfect. Thanks, UTA.
Brittany, maybe if we can just all give you a hand of applause for your good work as chair.
Thank you. Any other more important things? All right, our next meeting will be held on January 17th, and you can all look forward to Ben White chairing that meeting. As everyone in favor of dismissing, if you are, say aye now. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Okay, so adjourned.